I'd like to start with thought of the day, and that is a podcast isn't a marketing channel. If a podcast isn't a marketing channel, what is it? What are your thoughts, everyone? Anyone watching live, do you have any thoughts on how you would better describe what a podcast is in terms of its relationship to a business, its benefit to a business? Any thoughts? Possibly that little bit of a delay kicking in there as well. I will move on and tell you that it's a content medium. So it's a content medium. So it's like a blog, in that if you publish a blog post nowadays, certainly you're not going to get any eyeballs to it unless you promote it, unless you tell people about it, unless you have some kind of distribution mechanism built in there. Obviously, if you publish it for a decent length of time, you can start to bring in organic traffic, but organic traffic is the channel. Um, Similarly, for podcasting, a podcast is a content medium, and the channel is Apple Podcasts. The channel is Spotify. So I'd just like you to think of it that way. So 10 things we're going to be covering today. Number one, content marketing in 2023. Number two, why B2B podcasting is different. Number three, the 6H content marketing model. Number four, 6 steps from starting a podcast to publishing a book. Number five, podcasting equipment and software. Planning your show, presenting, guests, editing, and launch and promote. So a lot of content to look at, to share with you today. Please keep on asking questions. We have got Mr. Jason Bernard, who's joining us live, saying hello. I can just hear him say that now. Hello, Jason. Thank you for joining us live. Let us move on to content marketing in 2023. Let's discuss the elephant in the room. GTP. What's happening? What's happening with content, with the future of content in relation to ChatGTP? Well, in my opinion, if you write the written form, if you write blog posts, then that's much more of a challenge for you. You've got people using ChatGTP now to write blog posts. Obviously, you can edit the form, you can improve it, you can enhance it, but that's quite competitive with potentially what you're trying today in the written form. At the moment, AI isn't good enough to produce long form video content, and I don't think it's going to be there for the next couple of years anyway. So the way to really differentiate yourself from a content perspective is to produce high quality ongoing content with your personality, then demonstrating your own authority, demonstrating your own brand's authority, and doing that on an ongoing basis. And then if you do that, then you can use AI to break it down and to create even more content from your initial piece of content. But I don't think ChatGTP at the moment is a competitor to podcasts. You can differentiate yourself by producing a high quality podcast, by producing a high quality video series, and then perhaps using AI to break it down into different sections, to take those different sections and to say to ChatGTP, take this transcript and turn it into a blog post. So it will enhance what you're currently doing, but start with that high quality podcast or video show, or even better, both at the same time. Who are your competitors in 2023? Now, a lot of people, when they're thinking about content, think their competitors are the organizations, the brands that sell exactly the same thing as they do. That's not really the case necessarily when it comes to consuming content. Your competitors could be targeting different keyword phrases, producing entirely different content. The key competition is whoever is actually competing for your target consumers' ears or eyes. And that is where they are consuming content. So places like Netflix, places like BBC iPlayer, places like Spotify, people are much more comfortable That's not a piece of spam uh, in the YouTube comments, is it, Michael? Looking for leads. That's not so good to be sharing. Anyway, Lucas has also joined us. So, Lucas, good to see you in the comments there. I wanted just to emphasize the fact that Netflix, BBC iPlayer, Spotify, places like that is where your target consumers spend the majority of their time when they're consuming content online. So you've got to compete with them. What do I mean by competing with them? I mean that you have to produce content that is of a relatively similar quality, using decent audio, using decent video, thinking about your presentation skills, and hopefully I can help you with that, with some of that today. You don't have to get, you know, film studio quality in terms of editing, but you do have to up your levels so that when someone comes from Netflix, when someone comes from Spotify, they don't listen to your podcast and think, who's this guy using some kind of horrible headset in his basement? I'm not going to listen to that, because with 2.5 million podcasts out there, you better think of pushing that quality up and doing something really different and better compared with the competition. So why is B2B podcasting different? It's got a longer sales cycle. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you can't just drive people from finding out about you to begin with straight to purchase. And in most scenarios, it's generally not about seeking sponsorship, which means that you're not doing it to make money from the podcast. You're doing it to keep your brand top of mind, which is the fourth point there. And it's a great way of expanding thought leadership to drive those one-on-one relationships, which B2B is all about. Now, why is keeping your brand top of mind key? 71% of consumers are more likely to buy a product or service from a name they recognize. That's absolutely massive. Just have a think about that again. 71% of consumers faced with, I'll buy this product or service from Mr. X here, or I'll buy this product or service from Mr. Y. I recognize Mr. Y's brand. 71% of people much more likely to buy from Y's brand because of that. Use your podcast to keep your brand top of mind. That's not selling what you do. That's not delivering lots of case studies. It's delivering content that appeals to your target market without selling to them. So I know, and you have a great story of an attorney in the States, lawyers in the States, and they researched their target market and they decided that what they sold as a product or service wasn't the kind of thing that their target market would be interested in subscribing to on an ongoing basis. So what they did was they discovered that their target market was quite likely to like golf. So they started a podcast about golf, brought to you by this attorney, brought to you by this lawyers. So that's a novel way to approach it. You don't have to go so left field with your content, but it should be equivalent to a magazine that people would like to subscribe to and consume content on a regular basis, and certainly not something that sells your services all the time. It's just simply a subtle, this podcast about digital marketing or whatever subject matter your podcast is about is brought to you by brand name. Perhaps a very small strapline about your brand, your information, your great content in your podcast. You want to find out more, come and join us over at, and I'll talk a little bit about calls to actions and things to that later on, but that's just to give you an idea. Focus on quality content,